Thanks for clicking on the video. This is UnholyVision from Venomous Pictures, and you're watching RebelTechTV, the show for the Linux community by the Linux community. I, your host, UnholyVision, am joined by these lovely guests, and our topic of today is software. What distributions are you all using, and what desktop environment, window manager, all that stuff? What is your favorite and why?
Well, so currently using Arch Linux, no desktop environment, and i3WM. And honestly, I'm brand new to Arch, and I've only been on it for 3 weeks now. So,
are you messing with it on a bare metal system, or are you just messing around on the virtual machine?
I went straight up bare metal. I was
wow,
like, if I'm gonna do it, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
But it's working. It's working so far. And the thing that made me kind of stick with it so far is the fact that it boots a lot faster than Ubuntu did. I love the speed. I'd probably throw the AUR in there too, being able to have access to the latest versions of a lot of the software that's available. So yeah, that's what's keeping me around. Let's see how long it lasts. I'm
constantly exploring different distributions. Some of the ones that I've enjoyed recently, I guess Solus OS. That one's a pretty good one. It's kind of cool, different take on things, and it's got I forgot what the desktop environment was on that one. I think it's Budgie, I think they call it, which was very, very unique. What is it?
Yeah, it's Budgie.
Budgie, yeah. And that one almost has a Android-esque feel to it to me for some reason. So I don't know. I kind of enjoy that one. But I'm tried and true actually to Ubuntu and the GNOME desktop just because that's what I've started with, and I've just found it so easy to use. It's so freaking uncluttered. I just like it for actually commercial purposes more than anything. But yeah, I guess that, just to sum it up, that's kind of my take on it right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Budgie, I don't know if that's a spin-off of Deepin or what, but it's pretty close in some ways.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's got a little bit of difference, that right-hand side where you can kind of pull in widgets and stuff. I actually enjoyed that with that distribution on Budgie. I think that's kind of cool too. But yeah, I can see what you're saying. Kind of similar.
Have you ever actually used Deepin OS?
No, I've never actually used that one.
Yeah, I like on Deepin OS how they have the ability to go into some of the start menus. Well, technically, I guess you call it a start menu in this case, but it's more like the Mac. You can have either or, but when you go in there, you can right-click anything, and it just you can click uninstall. That makes it so easy.
Oh, that is nice.
Like a new user, it's crazy, but yet the Deepin OS is such an old. It's kind of an old kernel, like 4.5.
All right, so the one distro I use is Manjaro, the GNOME desktop. I like Budgie as well. Manjaro is my favorite distro that I go to, and the AUR repositories is just, God, you can find anything in there. So that's pretty much my go-to with that.
What was your first distribution? What made you make that switch from a dual boot? And when did you switch to Linux full-time?
Let's see. Mine was probably Ubuntu 14.04. It's mainly through my work and stuff. So I work with embedded systems, and we kind of use Linux with those embedded systems. And I don't know, I kind of got on it and started rolling with it a little bit. And I've gotten more and more interested with the other distributions that are available now. And I don't know, I like exploring things. So that's really where my interest is. And really, I like the software development side of Linux and how easy it is to develop software on a Unix-based system. So that's kind of my focus. I can't say that I use Linux every single day. I do use a Unix system every single day because I go between Mac and Linux pretty much all the time.
First distro that I ever used was Ubuntu 7.04. That's going way back. As for going full time, I'm almost there. I'm 90% there. There's just a couple games that don't work, like Destiny 2 and stuff like that. But I don't know, that with the way things are going right now, I think that'll happen sooner than later. So
if they don't ban us all.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so Ubuntu 8.04 was the first one that I'd ever seen, and it wasn't because I was running it. My older brother brought a laptop home. He just finished college at the time. This is like 2004 was when he finished college, and a couple years after that, it was his first job. So in like 2008, brought home a D630, Latitude D630, and then he showed me the cube, that Compass Fusion cube where you could rotate your desktops, and it blew my mind. I was like, what is this? I want it now. So he explained Linux to me. But I think I ended up switching to Linux full-time in 2014 with Crunchbang Linux. I put that on a D620 I had lying around. And I don't know what it was about. I think it's because it was such a minimal system. Had me hooked. And then like after that, like within the same year, I put Bodhi Linux on an Acer C720, those old Chromebooks, and then Linux Mint and Ubuntu Mate, and then Ubuntu on an Intel NUC. Like I jumped around to 3 of those, but that's when I like locked in to Linux permanently until 2016, where I decided to dual boot again, for the same reasons as LinuxCity. There were some games I just wanted to play. Then Proton happened, and everything was amazing.
Yeah, Proton, but Bodhi Linux. Oh yeah, that's uses Enlightenment, right?
Yeah,
I freaking like Enlightenment, but I just can't stand their compositor on it. It kills so much.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
even on better hardware, it's like it kills games.
They can. I mean, I don't know. Is development still going on for Bodhi? It's been a long time.
I don't know about Bodhi itself, but I know Enlightenment has been getting a few updates. They made it like a Wayland. It's very alpha stage, but it does have Wayland support.
Okay,
so that's nice. I do like the ability, to do the whole tablet and stuff mode with that. Pretty cool, but
can't be breaking my games, man.
Yeah,
no.
What will it take for Microsoft to love us and all that lovely stuff going around? What are your thoughts on Microsoft coming to Linux, and do you trust them at all, or do you have any doubts? Anything? Would you use Microsoft Edge if it came to Linux, and any other like applications if it truly came to Linux?
All right, so I might not be the most well learned about this particular subject, right? I don't get too involved in the politics of Linux, but to me it doesn't seem very different from Google being involved in Linux a bit, like with Android, or just the existence of Android. So I mean, if Microsoft decides it wants to create its own Linux distro, let's just say some hypothetical scenario, I think they should be free to do so. I don't know how many users they're going to get, aside from their own, the people who have already bought into the Microsoft ecosystem and who are Windows users who want to try out Linux. But for the Linux community as it exists right now, I just don't see anyone really buying into this too much. And one of the best things about that suspicion and that skepticism that the Linux community has is it's not like Microsoft is going to go unchecked. If they do anything, I mean, if they step out of line just half an inch, the entire community is going to jump on them like white on rice. It's going to be a problem for the company, and that's not going to help their image at all in the global tech space, right? Because once those articles hit the web, you know how Linux users are. That thing's going to spread like wildfire, and Microsoft's going to be on damage control duty for weeks trying to clear that stuff up, probably apologizing and putting out a statement. So I'm not too worried at all. Yeah, let them do their thing.
Yeah, till people get complacent.
There's that, but that the onus then is on the user, right? Like that would be us failing as a community. That would be the user base deciding we've given up. We don't want control anymore over our freedom. Yeah.
Well, at that point, the gaming community, if we ever did get DirectX and it wasn't like open sourced, then people just go, oh yeah, DirectX gets put into the system, and then that becomes the default. Yeah. Microsoft's got control.
Yeah, it can happen, but I also have enough faith in the community that someone out there,
definitely.
some group out there is going to decide we can make our own version of DirectX somehow.
Yeah, well, Vulkan, you know.
Yeah, but exactly.
But,
I mean,
you know, I'm just playing devil
no, I know, I
advocate
got
there.
you. I got you. That, but you know, to tie it up, like one thing that one of the reasons why I'm not concerned is because the community is the way it has been. We always look at alternatives. There are always options being created every day. So I just don't see Microsoft having that strong of a hold on it. If Google couldn't do it, I don't see Microsoft doing it.
Do we really even call that Linux anymore?
Yeah, true. All the more reason not to worry.
It depends on what they bring to the table. I mean, I've been using Windows since Windows 3.1. So as for trust, like I said, it all depends on what they bring over. As for the Edge browser, yeah, sure, why not? It's based off of Chromium now, so I don't know. I mean, how much more damage can they really do?
Yeah, well, plenty. They just you know, infest the kernel with everything. Everybody just approves it.
Oh
Yeah, let's hope
man.
not.
Oh man, if they get inside the kernel, yeah, then I can understand where there's going to be pitchforks.
Well, luckily, you know, you have the wall garden where everyone has to go and agree to it, but yet HDCP, all these other things just sort of made their way into there.
I don't know how much of an opinion I have on it. I mean, I guess the only good thing out of it, in my opinion, would be that, you know, some publicity, you know, get some people from Microsoft thinking about Linux. You know, Microsoft, their Windows operating system has a lot of users, and Linux can definitely use that user base. So just throwing the Linux name around, I think, is good for Linux in general, but are they going to really help or bring anything to the table that Linux doesn't already have? I mean, like you already mentioned, I think they could only screw it up. And if they're hacking through the kernel themselves, they've already made a hack of their own operating system. So I just can't get behind that at all. So it's just publicity. They want to look good and they want to bring more money into their own revenue stream. So yeah, I just can't get behind it at all.
Well, wouldn't you like to restart every time when you're in the middle of something on Linux?
Or just have to, after a couple of years, just have to start from scratch, reinstall the base system and everything? Yeah, no, I'm all right.
In your opinions, what is the key features that Linux needs, and what might be holding it back if we, from people switching, and any of the features that they might need from switching over, that maybe not applications altogether, but something that could affect their day-to-day use?
Yeah, so a bunch of my friends, I'm pretty sure in my circle of friends that game on Steam and everything, I'm the only one that uses Linux. I'm my close circle of friends. And they've mentioned on numerous occasions, like, y'all only have GOG and Steam. And that's something I had to stop and think about. I'm like, oh, wow, yeah, because I don't know. I can't remember what Ubisoft's online store is called.
Uplay,
yeah. So there's Uplay, you got the Epic Game Store, Steam, and then there's another one outside of GOG. Is like a Origin, thank you. That's it. So all of these friends that I've mentioned, they all have games across these different platforms. And they're like, if I switch to Linux, I no longer have access to like another set of my games. I can't do that. I will not do that. They don't even want to dual boot because just the act of having to switch back and forth just seems pointless to them. So I get that from their perspective. So I think something that would bring more people over is if these other organizations decided to, port their stores over to Linux, make these things available, get in touch with Valve, see how they can get Proton set up, on their systems. Maybe, I don't know, anything that would make it easier to game on Linux with all of the games that you own, I think would help. And then one of the other big things that affects people from that kind of deters people from jumping ship is the elitism that exists in the Linux community. Now that's been changing in the past couple of years, in my opinion. I feel like when I started to really dive into Linux back in 2013, 2014, I got a lot of flack, for lack of a better word, from veteran users, because it's the RTFMs and the oh, this question's already been answered. Did you even search correctly? Blah blah blah. A lot of that, which I understand now, especially using the operating system as long as I have. But at the same time, a new person coming in, a lot of these folks are kids sometimes coming in. They don't know RTFM. They don't know what a man page is. They don't even know how Stack Overflow works. And they're bad at Googling, So it's just like being more patient with people. Again, I feel like it's happening more so now than it has in the past, but being a bit more patient, and then also getting outside of that elitist distro hierarchy that exists. I use Scratch or I use Arch, therefore I am better than you lowly Ubuntu user or something else. That mentality and that kind of behavior makes people think this isn't a very friendly place.
Well, speaking of that whole elitism thing though,
yeah,
there is actually something the other way around too, where the Ubuntu or other distribution user will go around and go, oh, you're an Arch user. You just like to talk about being on Arch.
Yeah, the meme, the Arch meme.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, I don't want to put all blame on Arch or what is it, MX Linux MX or MX Linux, any of those guys. I don't want to put them in a box. But yes, it works in the reverse as well, and that behavior needs to cease. We're all using Linux at the end of the day. That's why I say at the end of my videos, out of many, one Linux. It comes from the Jamaican national slogan, which is out of many, one people. So it's the same concept. We're all using Linux. Get along, work together, make the community awesome.
And
so
your whole friend situation, you should tell them you're doing it wrong. You're supposed to get on Linux and stub your GPU so you can VGA pass through. Tell them to do that.
I showed them there's a video. I think it's Linus Tech Tips or something. He's got a new guy on there who does a lot more Linux based stuff, and he worked with Level 1 Linux to do a collaboration video about GPU pass through. I send them that video.
Was that Wendell?
Huh? Yeah, Wendell. Yes. Yeah. Yep. The wood video, and it's a great video. I send it over to them, and they're like, "F you, I'm not doing all that work. You're insane." They're like, "Please leave." It was great.
The good thing though about the whole client thing you were talking about though is we do have Lutris to help with that.
Yes. Yeah, and I've also shown them Lutris to encourage them to like try out these other options. So I think at some point they might give it a shot. But
yeah,
my main thing, and this will also help.
You just got to bug them enough, right?
Don't do that. Don't do that. That's the last point on that. Don't bug people, force them into trying Linux. Let them discover it on their own.
But then you get the reply back, well, why are you using Linux? Why would you use that? Why would you torture yourself that way?
It just works on Windows. Why would you go through all this trouble? I hear that every day.
Well, I don't know that it's necessarily missing anything. Maybe just the access to some of these things, and just the fact that there's so many distributions to pick from, and as I would think a beginner perspective would be, which one do I pick? Where do I go? What do I read? It can get overwhelming. You just got so many choices. Whereas, some of these other operating systems have been able to kind of pigeonhole people into, one version that they have, and, that's the route you got to take, period. So the whole, it's just kind of, in my opinion, a little fragmented at the moment. It'd be really nice to kind of get some stuff together and just offer beginners this one-off solution or one-on solution where they can just go to and they're ready to use it. And kind of go from there, because, once they get that experience and once they're comfortable with something, then you can explore and customize and stuff like that. So, I don't like when, people have the solution, oh, go with this distribution because of this, or that distribution because of that, or whatever. It's like, well, you've got to first get the beginner to even try Linux. And I think Linux has a a way to go before they finally get to a point where users feel comfortable just coming in and starting out.
Definitely, yeah. That's what I started doing, the whole videos jumping through distributions lately.
Yeah, that definitely helps.
Mm-hmm.
I
it
try
helps
doing
with recommendations too.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, just the user can see, what's out there, what's up, and maybe like, okay, I'm going to pick this one over that one, whatever, But again, I mean, how many distributions are out there? There's hundreds, I bet.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think I see a lot of people talking about the reason why they don't use Linux is because it doesn't have Adobe Premiere or something like that. I don't know if Adobe would ever even consider putting their suite on here. I don't know. That's hard to even tell. As for games and stuff like that, the anti-cheat stuff is a big problem. If games like Fortnite, PUBG,
blame Epic.
Yeah.
Because they make easy anti-cheat.
Yeah. If we could get past that, then I think we would get a lot more people on here. No problem.
Well, luckily, it's only a handful of games that use those.
Sit, boo-boo, sit. Are you threatening me?
I love the speed.